Major trade deals announced and the commodity markets going down on Friday. Jerry Gidel is ready to assess all of that and more right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So, Jerry, we have had some trade deals announced this week. One of them was with Japan. Japan was quite resistant to open up its rice market to U.S. Uh, produced rice, and but the Japanese ended up agreeing with opening up that market and committing to more agricultural purchases. And yet, the agreed rate for the tariff was 15%. So, how do you think that's going to impact the commodity markets?
Well, it ended up getting a particular trade deal with Japan probably was the biggest psychological thing that happened this last week. We also had ones with Indonesia and Philippines, talking about one with South Korea. It hasn't finalized at this point. But one of the statements that about midweek was just at or after the Japanese announcement was that uh, President Trump really feels like he can't go any lower than his new tariffs than 15%. And that, interestingly enough, I don't know in most cases here they were 0 or 5 or 10% at most. So I guess he's going to help boost his coffers a little bit here along the way. I guess the real positive thing about it was is that from the Japanese side is that they've already committed a lot of manufacturing and things of that in the U.S. I don't know what I didn't hear any particular drop of import uh, tariffs on automobiles, but supposedly they committed 550 billion for further construction of U.S. Auto manufacturing here in the U.S., which is a significant amount of money. There's no doubt about it. So I guess to some extent that's going to be some of the same uh, patterns we'll see for South Korea and Taiwan as we go forward here. And those are really some real big ones, along with the EU. I'm not sure how the EU is going to. They have a certain amount of assembly here in the U.S. on autos, but that's one of the biggies that's still out there yet, along with, of course, Canada and Mexico on getting this trade thing together. Right now, he's not talking about extending anything here at this point on deadlines. Of note, next week here, we're going to end up having U.S. and China get together in Sweden and begin their discussions about things on tariffs and things of that nature, and how much commitment the Chinese might be to buying more agricultural things from the U.S. But right now, they've pretty well covered a lot of their oilseed needs from Brazil. And on the corn side, at least, I think there's going to be a little bit of demand there. But the biggest thing right now, there's good-sized corn supplies in Brazil.
Well, yeah,
And
one Friday, do you think the market has gone down because of a sellout?
Oh, there was some the weakness late week was as much to do with the weather for that happened in the Western Corn Belt here, northern Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, parts of northeastern Nebraska that got some timely rains and some significant ones at this point. There was a deluge on the south side of Chicago, but that really didn't hit too many cornfields. But in reality, there's forecasted rains for this coming weekend, and that, and so. It's a situation where uh, the weather scenario, the biggest problem right now is that we're down so price wise, we're so close to the loan value, and that that there isn't a lot of downside in the market. The problem is there's just no enthusiasm uh, for buying a lot of stuff. Actually, one notice here is that our pop we had here a week or so, 10 days ago, we did see a big liquidation of some of our shorts in corn. So hopefully that means they're going to continue to be a buy, look to buy on longer term, but they could also turn around and start pressing it again. The funds can be a fickle bunch at times.
Yes, but in Brazil there is a significant delay on the corn harvest. The number thrown out by Patria Agronegócios Consultancy, is staggering. It's about 20 percentage points delay for this season.
Yes. Well, I think there's been a different approach from the Brazilians this year than sometimes in the past. Uh, they've if the weather's okay and they were getting, I think they're bored. They were out there harvesting corn. Problem was that there wasn't any place to ship it out because of the shipments going on in beans. And this year, particularly of the aggressive posture of the Chinese wanting to get so much of their beans from Brazil and Argentina, and that the Brazilian producers down there, I think, decided to, in most cases, leave the corn in the fields and wait for the opportunity to get it organized. Because this basically the second crop corn which is still out in the field here at this point, is for export. Uh, a certain amount of course, will be in some feeding operations later in the year, but in most cases, this is that. So I think that's the twist of it that instead of harvesting and piling on the ground, they decided to keep it in the field. And then this year it's worked out well. There's no doubt. There hasn't been any super loss in the field. And on top of it, the weather has, it's been warm, maybe it's more above normal temps, but at the same time, it hasn't created a lot of the dry season has been a dry season this year, and that's generally positive there. So it's behind, and I think and interestingly enough, they're going to be a strong competitor to the U.S. when we get to our fall exports in corn, and so that'll be quite interesting as to what our initial corn exports this coming fall will be, because Brazil and Argentina will be aggressive on making sure they move things on the corn.
Yes, yes, this will happen, but still there are some concerns in the US about diseases on soybeans.
Oh, the diseases. Yes, there's both issues in the corn and the soybeans at this point. From there, the beans is really a lot more wetness situations in that. I think that's maybe a factor why this last week's crop condition slipped a couple points, and that causing some SDS issues. Also, soybeans are not a crop that appreciates a lot of moisture, in that, and we've can particularly once it's gets up, she's even when it's small, uh, excessive moisture can drown out beans a lot easier. It can also disease them issues, things like that. So it's uh, but the twist of it is that on the corn side, the we continue to get more and more commentary popping up, and maybe it's just because people are looking closer and all that along the way. But the one issue that's popped up over the last couple 3 weeks has been this whole pollination issue concerning the tassel being basically restricted because of a tight, they call it whirl, which is the basically the leaves around it, not letting it come out. And that is an issue. There's people out there that seen it quite, in many places, but I don't know how extensive it is. guaranteed. We've got a tremendous amount of fields out there. So the other thing is uh, on the corn side is that uh, we've got lots of some issues about washing out the fertilizer. We've got some other factors in the corn. The SCS is another one that's it's a something that impacts your yields along the way. It's sudden, sudden death syndrome. That's definitely a little more prevalent in beans than it is corn along the way. But right now, lots of different things are pointing to here and stuff. I guess right now we're gonna in our little exploration of the fields this year, we'll be definitely seeing how significant some of these issues are, and that in the second weekend of August when we're out there looking at fields here in the Illinois. And then I guess you and I are going to join a little bit of a tour ourselves out to eastern Iowa ahead of that. So it's going to be interesting what we see in the fields out there and see what we can see. Now, unfortunately, we can't stop every field, but we'll see if we can find out some of these exciting concerns out there in the field.
Yeah, so what do you expect for next week?
Well, we're really kind of bouncing along the bottom here, and I kind of feel like we're against the loan values, and that kind of feel like that's going to be the case. Again, we still have some heat in the forecast. We've got some rains this weekend, and so it's going to be a mixed bag on that kind of stuff here as to what we see. The This last week, we did have a tour of North Dakota's wheat. South, North Dakota spring wheat crop up there, and the northern half of North Dakota has been on the dry side, and I guess finally some people started recognizing that. It turns up that their forecast on some of their yearly differences on some of this turned out to be average about 5 or 6 bushels less than last year on a statewide basis. Now, interestingly enough, the USDA had a number of 59 bushels, which was surprisingly strong, I thought, at the time, and the tour was given at 49. I don't sense that that's what we're going to find from the USDA on September, or excuse me, in August here on stuff, but it is something that's most likely going to have an impact. I actually think that maybe we'll see a 35 million or so spring wheat durum decline and maybe a 15 million decline in some of the winter wheats output in Montana and the Northwest. And so 50 million sounds impressive on wheat, particularly when there's not like a huge crop out there on wheat. But the problem is it's what our demand's going to be longer term. This year, the USDA has already projected a 50 million higher, or 40 to 50 million higher carryover stock. So we probably be right back at where that was. So the wheat side of things, going to have some positives there, and it's a seasonal situation here, so we could have some demand on that. But corn and soybeans, we'll be watching the uh, weather conditions. And of course, the one thing that's going to be kind of haunting the ag markets at all is the whole USDA's, or excuse me, the Trump administration's plans on decentralizing further the USDA's staff. And they've got about combination here of uh, 4,500 to 5,000 Washington, D.C. staff, and they're still enthusiastic about moving about half of those into the regional points out there, regional new hubs they've come up with here on their proposals this last week. Looking at, of course, Kansas City is where they had it last year. They've got Indianapolis, they've got North Durham, North Carolina, I think it is. Of course, Indianapolis and Salt Lake City. So It'll be interesting uh, how quickly and how and dynamically things get to change. I think there's starting to become a frustration factor in the ag world out there about some of President Trump's proposals. So we'll see what how things go at the uh, 2 year elections here, only 18 months away. So we'll see how this all progress. But lots of different cross currents this last week on things. Right now, I think we'll probably get back to listening to the news from further export agreements, and that probably should see something in South Korea, Taiwan, Europe, things like that. It'd be real important to see that because August 1's coming up here pretty quickly at the end of this coming week. So that's something that the markets will be observing. And I guess how is he going to handle the ones that he doesn't have straightened out here with August 1? Those are all questions. Right now, I think it's just going to keep us going sideways.
All right, thank you very much.
You bet. Have a good weekend.